Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
There are certain ingredients in foods and supplements that can help the brain work better in children and adults with ADHD and ADD. ADHD is attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. ADD is attention deficit disorder. The difference mostly being one is very hyperactive and can't sit still, and the other is not. But either way, you can improve the way the brain functions. And this has to do with fats, and this has to do with certain nutrients that are incorporated into the fats. Our brain, our very large brain, is about 60% fat. The right fats are very important for your memory, for your mood, for your attention span. We've known this for decades. And the thing is, these fats come from fish oils or flaxseed oil, that's another option, omega-3 oils, or omega-6 oils, which come from vegetable oils. And these are very important for the housing of the brain cell. The outside of the brain cell is not hard. It's mostly made out of lipids, which are fatty type substances like the fish oils and the vegetable oils. And this is important. The malleability of the outer layers of the brain cell allow nutrients to get into the cell quickly and toxins to leave the cell, but also the transfer of energy and information from cell to cell more efficiently. We've known for decades that fish oils are really important for the brain. They rescue memory in elderly adults. They help control your mood. They help fight off the symptoms of stress and anxiety. But unless you have key nutrients impregnated into these oils in the cellular membrane, the outside of the brain cell is called a cellular membrane. And like I said, it's made out of mostly oils, oily fats, so it's not hard, it's kind of soft and malleable. Unless you impregnate certain key nutrients into these oils in the brain cell, it's not going to help. The fish oils are not going to be able to protect you from memory loss. And a key one of these nutrients is called phosphatidylserine. And there's a lot of evidence that phosphatidylserine, along with vegetable oils, but especially fish oils, improves the brain function of children and adults with ADD and ADHD. So welcome to our episode, Phosphatidylserine for Attention Deficit Disorder and Attention Deficit and Hyperactivity Disorder. So it's ADD, ADHD. Hi, my name is Jerry Hickey. I'm a nutritional pharmacist. I'm also the senior scientific officer over here at Invite Health, and this is going to be a good episode. I've known parents who've had children with ADHD. It could be disruptive in the classroom. It's hard on the kid. It's hard on the parents. It's hard on the teachers. So if you can help in any way, that's a good thing. Now, these nutrients can be tried without the drugs, or they can be added to the drugs for ADHD. And for some children with just minor ADHD, these supplements might be enough. So, phosphatidylserine is primarily used for improving memory, improving learning, and attention span. We can get it from fish, egg yolks, legumes like beans and soy foods. The problem is what we get from the diet for many of us is not enough. And in fact, as we age, the amount of phosphatidylserine, just like fish oils in the brain, declines. In fact, we've done an episode on this already, on oils for the brain and memory in aging people. But also people with ADHD do not utilize these oils from foods very effectively. So giving them additional fish oils, giving them an evening primrose oil capsule every day helps them. But if you add phosphatidylserine, that's really key. Phosphatidylserine comprises a lot of the phospholipid layer on the outside of the brain. Let me tell you what it does. Phosphatidylserine was first discovered in 1941. It very quickly became popular in Europe, by the way, because they did some pioneering clinical studies in Italy where it was helping the memory of aging people, and it kind of really became popular as what we call a nootropic, which is a smart pill. We make phosphatidylserine in our body a little bit, and we get it from food. There's an ounce in our body from the neck down, and there's an ounce in our brain. It shows you how important it is for the brain that compared to the rest of the body, there's an equal amount in the brain. Now, the American diet frequently lacks phosphatidylserine, so taking a capsule a day for anybody is generally a good idea. Phosphatidylserine gets incorporated into the bilipid layer, the membrane of the brain cell, of the neurons, your thinking cells, your memory cells, your problem-solving cells, etc. And it does a bunch of things. It helps keep it elastic and resilient and malleable, and that allows nutrition to get into the cell. But it also allows toxins to leave the brain cell because of this softish membrane covering the brain cell. But in addition to that, the phosphatidylserine content of the brain cell, it facilitates the release of neurotransmitters. You know, neurotransmitters are things like dopamine and norepinephrine and serotonin and melatonin. These have all the different functions in the brain, like norepinephrine helps you pay attention, acetylcholine helps you remember and learn and repairs the brain, glutamic acid gives the brain energy, GABA calms down the brain. These are all neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters flow better and more appropriately when there's sufficient phosphatidylserine in each of your brain cells, but it also allows the brain to conduct nervous impulses besides releasing neurotransmitters. Now, there's something else that phosphatidylserine is incredibly important for. Our nerve cells, our brain cells, our memory cells are not connected to one another. There's a little tiny microscopic space between them called a synaptic region. So the brain cells have to release the correct neurotransmitter at the appropriate time to remember, to learn, you know, for anything involving the brain, for anything involving the body. At the appropriate time, the brain cell splashes out a tiny bit of the correct neurotransmitter appropriate for the use that the brain is trying to control, and it sends the message to the next brain cell. This is released from a part of the brain called the dendritic spine. So the end of the nerve cell, or actually the beginning of the nerve cell, is called the dendritic spine. That's where you release the neurotransmitters to communicate with the next brain cell. So without the dendritic spines, there's no you, there's no memory. With age, the dendritic spines tend to wear down. This affects your memory, it affects your brain size, it affects all your cognitive skills. Phosphatidylserine protects the dendritic spines, but it's even been shown to repair the dendritic spines. And if you take phosphatidylserine, according to the research, in an older person, you could regain about 12 to 15 years worth of lost memory functions. It literally reverses aging of the brain. But once again, it works in conjunction with other nutrients like fish oils and vegetable oils. Now, phosphatidylserine is also important for the release of nerve growth factor. It helps your brain create nerve growth factor. That's responsible for the growth of brain cells and their survival. In fact, their development from progenitor cells, stromal stem cells, into the type of brain cell needed. So the phosphatidylserine protects the brain, nourishes the brain, repairs the brain. It also protects the brain from cortisol. You'll see a lot of studies on phosphatidylserine with stress. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It's released from the adrenal glands. These are two little triangular glands that sit atop each kidney. These are two triangular little glands that sit atop each kidney. And when you're stressed out, you release the cortisol. And it has real effects. It raises your blood sugar. It squeezes your blood vessels and makes your blood flow quicker so you get more blood to your muscles to get out of danger. It raises your blood sugar. It raises your blood pressure. But if you constantly release cortisol, it's bad for the brain. Because one of the things during stress, it wakes up the brain. But it can overwork the brain and it can damage your neurons. It can literally lead to shrinkage of the brain and poor memory function. Phosphatidylserine protects the brain from cortisol, and a number of studies in like stressed out men and stressed out college students, etc., when they give them phosphatidylserine and then they test their salivary cortisol, their blood cortisol, the cortisol in their urine, it drops. it drops the cortisol. And you feel it. You feel less stress. You feel much better. And you know what? During this time of COVID-19, you want your immune system working as well as it can. If you're stressed out, the stress steps on your immune system and strongly reduces its ability to fight viruses or anything else it needs to fight. So you want the stress under control. But children with ADHD frequently wind up with stress. They see the negative cues coming from the doctor, coming from their teachers and from their parents and from their brothers and sisters, but also their other classmates in school. They see the negativity coming out of them, and it's very stressful for them. It hurts their self-image. Phosphatidylserine releases them of that stressful feeling. It's extremely important for children and adults with ADHD. Once again, it doesn't work alone. In fact, I'll tell you a couple of other things that have been shown in studies to help children and adults with ADHD. ADHD tends to get a little bit milder with age, but it's still there. The mineral magnesium, the mineral zinc, and the mineral iron, and of course going to parks and getting a lot of exercise and getting fresh air, all of those things have been shown to help children with ADHD. But along with that, fish oils, vegetable oils, so I normally recommend the evening primrose oil. That's a great way to get your the ingredients in the vegetable oils that are good for the brain. And then phosphatidylserine. So here are some of the studies, very important. This is the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. It's Tel Aviv Sourasky Medical Center, their clinical nutrition unit over in Israel. These are children not diagnosed with ADHD, but they have trouble paying attention in school. They're between the age of 8 and 13. They gave them fish oils and phosphatidylserine over a 3-month period, or placebo. It was a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled human clinical trial. So that's a state-of-the-art gold standard human clinical trial. And they found that there's no doubt about it. They were paying attention better if they got the phosphatidylserine and the fish oils. So here's a second study. This is the European Journal of Psychiatry. It's the ADHD unit, Geha Mental Health Center in Israel. Same kind of deal. It's a 15-week, double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled human clinical trial. 200 kids with ADHD. Now, 150 of them finished the study, so all 200 didn't, but you expect that with children. They were given either placebo or phosphatidylserine with fish oils. And they found, without a doubt, giving them the phosphatidylserine with the fish oils to these children with ADHD, they were diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, strongly reduced their restlessness. They could sit still for longer. Their impulsivity, so they're not like touching people's hair and or their face, or knocking things around, or yelling things out in class. And the parents and the teachers' ratings were better. I mean, that's a sure bet that it's really working. And guess what? In all of these studies, the phosphatidylserine was absolutely safe. It was safe as placebo, a fake pill, like a sugar pill. So here's the Journal of Human Nutrition and Dietetics. And they're looking, once again, at phosphatidylserine on memory and attention span in hyperactive children. It's a study from Japan. It's the Department of Early Childhood Education and Care, Kurashiki City College in Japan. And it's children between the age of 4 to 14 with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And they're giving them phosphatidylserine every day. Now, they only gave them 200 milligrams. I normally tell people to take 300 milligrams for 2 months, or placebo in a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled human clinical trial. And they found that phosphatidylserine resulted in real improvements in ADHD. For paying attention, for listening, like short-term auditory memory, for focusing, reducing their impulsivity, reducing their restlessness. And it was, once again, as safe as placebo. So listening in class, following instructions, no doubt about it, phosphatidylserine mattered. So here's what I normally tell parents. Try to get the child to eat fish 2 or 3 times a week. They need a lot of fish oils. And if not, krill oil might be a better choice than fish oils because it's really well absorbed. It's tiny compared to a fish oil capsule. And there's other ingredients in the krill oil that are also good for the brain. So if the child can't eat fish, or if they refuse to eat enough fish, and if a fish oil capsule is too big, think of a krill oil capsule. It's a lot smaller. Give them krill oil capsules or eating fish 3 times a week. If you can get some magnesium and zinc into them, they might need iron also, but their pediatrician should check their blood to see if they need iron, because their brain doesn't use iron as efficiently as it does as your or my brain does. People with ADHD, their brain doesn't use iron very efficiently, which is one of the reasons why they're a little bit restless. You need iron for smooth muscle function, for muscle control, for movement, for balance, for mobility. Now, the other thing is that, plus iron is an antioxidant in the brain. Iron becomes incorporated into catalase. Plus, iron is protective in the brain. It creates something called neuroglobulin that protects the brain. Just like this, hemoglobin in the blood and myoglobin in the muscle, they're all made out of iron. In the brain, there's neuroglobin that protects the brain and the eyes. So iron is important too. So give the child 3 capsules. Here's the call to action, okay? Give the child 3 capsules of phosphatidylserine every day with breakfast. Even if they're on drugs for ADHD, it'll just make them work better. I also strongly recommend sufficient physical activity. These kids need to get outdoors and play, especially in a green environment. And once again, phosphatidylserine is extremely safe. So thank you for tuning into the Invite Health Podcast. You can find all our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts. Or you could go to our page, invitehealth.com/podcast. Please subscribe. Please leave me a review. I'd like to know how I'm doing. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. I hope to see you another time on the next episode of the Invite Health Podcast. Thank you for listening. Very excited to be here talking to you, by the way. Thanks for listening.